All right, lesson 85. We're going to do some order of operations and some other fun stuff. So let's start out by doing the warm-up and come back and we will get into the lesson. All right, 12 times 6 is 72, and since we have one negative, we have an odd number of negatives, so the answer is negative. This one we just did in lesson 83. We did 4 times 2 is 8, and then we add the exponents. 3 plus 6 is 9. This one was, stop me in my tracks for a second to see how they thought we should do it, and I'm going to show you how I did it. The book doesn't actually tell me their tricks, okay? So I'm going to give you my trick, and you might have a different one. Your parents might have thought of it a different way. But in order to do this with no, do it in our head mentally, if it's on paper, it might be a little bit easier. So mental strategies are, some of us might have better ideas than others. Or you might have a better idea than me, is what I'm saying. All right, so what I noticed is 1 times 80 is 80. So what I wanted to do is multiply 1.5 times 80. Now to multiply 1.5 times 80, it's just 80 plus half of 80, which is 40. So 80 plus half of 80 is 120. So that's where I got that answer. Okay, 12 is 1/4 of how much? Well, we just multiply it by 4, $48. Okay? This, we move the decimal to the right 3 places, and that gives us 800 meters in 0.8 kilometers. What is 1/4 of $12? That'd be $3. That one is kind of a nice one. All right, let's jump into this stuff. Okay, we're just going to jump into an example. All right, we're going to look at things like this in parts. Okay, and we're going to do them in parts divided up into basically multiplication and division, maybe. So we're first going to do multiply and divide in order from left to right. So what I'm going to do here is look that, okay, -2, this one right here has no one really to multiply or divide with. So he's just going to hang out, come down to the next line. So this one just waits. He just steps down while we tackle these two. Okay, then I'm going to take -2 times -2. -2 times -2 is a +4. Okay, and then this one we have, now this is tricky, we have a minus, and we have, so let's just cover up this minus. In fact, let's take this minus and bring it down to the next line. Okay, so now we're just looking at -2 divided by +2. Well, it's a 1, and then it's going to be a -1. So we take that answer like that. Okay, so when we do that, we get a minus minus. Okay, that's, some of you, this is really going to bug you for a little while, but don't give up, and don't, if this is confusing to you, it's not because you're not good at math. It's just this is new, and it takes a while to learn a new language, okay? So don't get discouraged if this stuff is slowing you down. It's okay. So now we've got -2 plus 4 minus -1, right? Now, what we can do is, before we deal with this minus -1, let's just deal with, we're going to go from left to right. Let's do -2 and +4. -2 plus 4 is a +2. And now we have +2 minus -1. Now remember, when we do this minus, it means add the opposite. Okay, add the opposite when you have a negative. So now we've got 3 is the answer, +3. Okay, get help on these if you're getting stuck. Like I said, does not mean you're not good at math, okay? All right, look at this big mess, okay? We're going to just piece it out. In fact, the book likes us to look at it, maybe like do this part, separate that from this grouping. So we've got 3 groups there, okay? And we can deal with each group separately. And so let's deal with this one. -3 times 2 minus 4. Okay, let's just simplify this step. We're going to do -3, and we've got 2 minus 4. Well, that's what that means is 2 plus -4. You have a 2, a positive 2, and a -4. Or we can say add the opposite. So 2 plus -4 equals -2, because that 4 won the sign game, right? Okay, so I'm just going to bring this line down. Now let's deal with this, okay? What this really means is -4 times -2 times -3. We have 3 negatives multiplying together. So if we have 3 negatives multiplying together, that means we have a negative answer. And now we just do 4 times 2 times 3. That is 8 times 3, which is 24. Okay, so if we're just looking at that, we have 3 negatives multiplying together. It's a -24. Okay, the last one here, we have on top, let's go ahead and simplify the top. And then we've got -3 times -4 is a positive 12. Okay, that was plus out there. And then we have a 2 down on the bottom. Okay, so that's step 1. We simplified each little chunk. Now the middle one is done, ready for these outside ones to be finished simplifying. So this is -3 times -2, which is a positive 6, minus 24, and over here is a positive 6. Okay, so now we have 6 minus 24 plus 6. And we're going to combine those. We could do the 6 and the 6 together, or we could do the 6 and the -24 together. So let's do positive 6, -24. That gives us a -6 taken away from 24 is 18 plus 6. Okay, and that answer is a -12. So yes, these take time, and it's okay. Slow it down. In algebra, I see mistakes in this all the time. So be very careful. Show all your work. See all those lines that it took me to? Don't try and do this in your head. I promise you, you will start making serious mistakes, okay? All right, we got this other one. Now we've got some brackets, so we're going to get it a little more complex. Okay, so we have this -2 who's got nothing, no one to hang out with. So let's kind of put, divide the -2, it's got its own thing going. And then this, so there's 2 big sets here. So the -2 just comes down to the next line, okay? Now I'm going to just leave that negative and start simplifying in the bracket. So see, I'm going to, and then I'm also going to kind of divide that -3 from these guys, okay? So I'm just going to bring that -3 down, and he'll wait to play, okay? And then we've got here negative times -4 times -5. Now there's a phantom 1 in there if we want to see it like that, okay? And what we're going to do is, see, we've got 1, 2, 3 negatives. So it's going to be negative because this is these three numbers are all multiplying together. Okay, so we have a -20. Another way to show it is if I didn't do that phantom 1. What if we just bring this negative down here and deal with -4 times 5? Okay, that is a positive 20. So I'm just going to write it like that. Okay, and now we can simplify what's in there. So this -2 still doesn't get to participate yet, and neither does this negative out in front. Now we're going to do -3, and we could say plus -20, which is a -23. And I don't even really need brackets anymore. I could have even run parentheses. So what this really is here is -2, and now we have minus minus. which is plus the opposite. So we've got -2 plus 23 is where we're down to. So 23 wins the sign game. It's going to be positive. It's going to be positive 21. Okay, so these are not ones that you can do fast. Okay, now we're totally going to switch gears and talk about functions. And originally we did we had those function machines basically where you had, you know, they you don't need to write this, but I want you to see where this is coming from. So you've got the function machine, here's the in and here's the output. The input is going to be the numbers that you put in. Okay, so let's say we put in the numbers 0, 3, 4, and 7. Okay, and outcomes are 0, 6, 8. Okay, what would the last output be? 0 becomes a 0, 3 becomes a 6, 4 becomes an 8, 7 becomes yes, it's 14 if you saw the pattern. Each of these gets doubled, okay? So the rule for that really is y equals 2x, and we'll talk about that, where these are your x's and your y is your output. Your input is always your x, your y is your output. So if we put in 0, 0 times 2, we get a 0. If we put in a 3 here, it would be 2 times 3. So your y equals 6. The book shows this a little bit as well. And I'm just going to move on and we're going to do some examples. Okay. So we have this chart here and it says find the missing numbers in the table using the function rule. This is the function rule. Y equals 2 times your input plus 1. So if our input is 4, what is y? Well, we're going to go out to the side. If our input is 4, this is how we do it. We go ahead and write y equals 2x plus 1. Okay, now we're going to replace that x with our input of 4 plus 1 equals 8 plus 1 equals 9. So when we input 4, our output, our y, is 9. Okay, now let's do it for 7. Y equals, again, here's the rule, the function rule. So we're going to do 2 times 7 plus 1 equals 14 plus 1 equals 15. So when our input is 7, our output is 15. Our y equals 15. Okay? The last one would be 0. So what is our y when we replace x with 0? Okay, y equals 0 plus 1. So y equals 1. And that goes in your box. Okay, I do need to see this work for a while. Okay, in the future, if it's a simple function rule, I'll probably be I will let you know when you don't need to show the work. Okay, but as for now, I needed to see these 3 things on your paper. Not this. Don't worry about writing that. This is in the book. You can read that, but that's what I need to see. Now you get to practice these things real good in the practice. You've got 4 decent things to simplify, and then a function rule in the last page. Okay, so go ahead and stop the video, do the practice, come back and check your work, or come back for help if you get stuck. And why don't you get started now? All right, so I look at this and I see we've got three three things going on there. So the negative 3 is just going to wait. And then I'm going to simplify in there. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. We've got positive, positive. So positive 9. I'm just going to write plus 9. Over here, though, I'm going to bring this negative down and just deal with the negative 3 over positive 3. That together makes a negative 1. Okay? So now we virtually have negative 3 plus 9 minus minus 1. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and go, okay, minus minus 1 is add the opposite. So we have negative 3 plus 9 plus 1, basically. Okay, in fact, it could even look like this. Nice and neat there. And now we can simplify negative 3 and a positive 9 is a 6, okay, plus 1. And then we get to our 7 as our answer. Okay. This one, I'm going to separate that negative 3 from what's going on in here. So what I'm going to do is negative 3. This negative here is going to come down and wait and deal with inside the brackets first. Okay. In fact, this 4 is also going to come down and wait. And now we've got this chunk to deal with. So I'm going to bring this negative down and deal with the negative 5 times negative 6, which is a positive 30. Okay, so we're a little bit simplified from the first line, but we can go a lot farther. Okay, because we're going to deal with inside the brackets first. So I'm going to have this come down and this come down. And we're going to simplify in those brackets. Okay, we have negative 4 minus 30, so that's the same as negative 4 plus negative 30, which is negative 34. Okay, so negative 34, now we've got negative 3, I'm just going to write negative 3 minus minus 34. So I'm going to add the opposite. So that's the same as negative 3 plus 34. 34 wins the sign game, and its final answer is take 3 away from it. You get 31. Okay. I hated these when I was starting out, so if you do, you could still be a math teacher when you grow up if you don't enjoy these right now. Don't be discouraged. It will turn into fun one day, okay? Just keep practicing. All right, this one, the 2 is going to be taken care of last, but make sure you put it right up against the bracket there, okay? And then the negative 3 is going to wait to play. This minus is going to come down, which leaves us with just negative 4 times negative 5, which is positive 20. Negative times negative. So now we've just got 3 things, and I'm still going to leave that 2 out, and I'm going to turn the bracket into parentheses because I'm going to deal with negative 3 minus 20 is the same as negative 3 plus negative 20, which is negative 23. Okay, and now this means multiply. 2 times 23. And we have 2 negatives, that's an even number, so the answer is going to be a positive 2 times 23, which is 46. Okay. This one, we've got 3 groupings here. Okay, so this negative 5 just stays negative 5 till he's got someone to play with. Then we've got this, so we can subtract or do minus, cover that up, and now it's 5 times 5 is negative 5 times negative 5 is a positive 25. Okay, and then we've got plus, and then the absolute value of negative 5. The absolute value of negative 5, how far is negative 5 from 0? It is 5 steps. So we've got that. So now we just have, well, I can change, we have negative 5 minus 25. So we're going to say plus negative 25 plus 5. So on a nice line, it would look like this. Okay, so we've got these 2 are negatives, so they can combine together and be negative 30 plus 5. And negative 30 plus 5, negative wins, and it's 25. Okay. The nice thing with the video and me going fast is you can always pause and rewind and go back if I said something too fast. Now we're going to fill in these function rule boxes. Okay, I'm sending an email to all of you. I had the X's and Y's switched, okay? In all of your boxes, I need to have the X in the first column and the Y in the second column. So that was a typo. I have it fixed online, but the packet I gave you, they're wrong. So hopefully you came and fixed this. Okay, so when X is 3, what is Y? So we're going to say Y equals 3 times 3 minus 1 equals 9 minus 1 equals 8. So 3, and we get 8. Okay. The next one is what is Y when X equals 1? So we get 3 minus 1 equals 2. So Y equals 2 there. When it equals 0, we get Y equals 3 times 0 minus 1 equals 0 minus 1 equals negative 1. And that's okay to get a negative. Okay. Over here, when X is 6, 1/2 times 6 is 3. Okay, when Y equals 0, anything times 0 is 0. And when X is, we don't know. Y is 4 this time. That's tricky. We know it would go 4 equals 1/2 X. Okay, how do we figure out what X is? 4 is 1/2 of what? 4 is 1/2 of what? So when I say that, you should think 8. But remember, we know how to get these line by line. So we multiply by the reciprocal of what we're trying to get rid of, right? So those cancel out, and we get 2 times 4 is 8. Okay. This one, if X is 7, Y equals 1. When X is 1, X is 1, Y equals 7. And when X is 4, Y equals 4. Okay. Now, letter H, Jacinda studied a function and found that when X was 1, Y was 1. So I'm going to just kind of make a table here. Okay, when X was 1, Y was 1. When X was 2, Y was 4. And when X was 3, Y was 9. Make a table of X, Y pairs for the function rule. And write an equation that expresses the function rule. Okay, so notice, this one's hard. I don't know if you realize. I'm going to give you one if you didn't know. See the pattern. I'll give you a few more of the pattern, okay? When X is 4, Y is 16. When X is 5, Y is 25. When X is 6, Y is 36, okay? Do you see a pattern? What is happening to these values to get these values? Okay, these, when we square these, 1 squared equals 1, 2 times 2 equals 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, so on. So when we square the x's, we get our y's. So we get y equals x squared, and that's our rule. You can check that by going, okay, if we plug in 1 here, be 1 times 1, we get y equals 1. If x is 2, it'd be 2 squared, y equals 4. 3 squared, that'd be 9, and so on. So if this was new or difficult, it's good. We're stretching a little bit. This wasn't just spoon-fed to you. You had to kind of figure it out a little bit. So I'm glad for that. Don't panic if that was overly difficult for you. It's good. We're working on it. Okay, hopefully I didn't make any mistakes, but if I did, I'm sure you'll let me know, and I will hear from you. If not, I will see you at school.